Well, welcome everyone. I hope you are having a great evening. Welcome to Ask Admissions. My name is Jacinta Luster. We've got some really special guests with us today. We're going to talk about undergraduate research, speak to some of our students. We also have an awesome special guest that keeps looking at me. It's a little cool, a little freaky all at the same time, but I'm super excited about it. So we'll talk about that later. But we have undergraduate research here with us today. I will let Dr. Buddy introduce herself, and then we will get into some news from the nest.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Amy Buddy. I am the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research and also a professor of psychology.
Awesome. So we'll talk a little bit more and get to know you even more. You've been with us a few times, so we'll talk just updates about life and all that good stuff. But news from the nest, as I always say, I wish we had like a really cool intro, because my little who as I go in is never as exciting as a cool video, but we'll go with it anyway. So some news from the nest, just so you guys know what's coming up in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. If it's your first time ever watching Ask Admissions, News from the Nest is just updates about the university, about things that are going on in admissions, orientation, things like that. So if you've never been on Ask Admissions Live, then this is what it is. So upcoming deadlines. If you are a incoming freshman, maybe you were a transfer student or a transient, maybe you are a readmit student, we've got some deadlines that we want you guys to commit to memory, just to remember. Our fall 2021 final deadline for our incoming freshmen, your document deadline, is June 15th. So keep in mind, if you haven't submitted your high school transcript, maybe you had college transcripts because you were dual enrolled, we need all of those documents by June 15th for you to be evaluated and get a decision for fall of 2021. The application deadline had already passed, but if you're still missing documents and you need to complete it, June 15th is your deadline for our freshmen and our transfer freshman students. So students who took college credit as dual enrollment and now they're coming in to KSU for fall 2021. And then for our transfer students, our readmits, our non-degree seeking students, transients, for fall of 2021, your application deadline, especially for our transfer students, is June 15th, is your application deadline. So it's a little different from the document deadline for our freshmen and our transfer freshmen. For you to complete the application, maybe you've decided, you know what, I want to come to KSU. I was a transfer student. I know what that transition is like for students. So maybe you're interested in coming to KSU to finish up a program. Maybe you started at, say, Georgia Highlands or Chat Tech. You got your associates, and now you want to come to KSU to finish up that bachelor's degree. Or maybe you're moving here from another state and you're looking at different schools and looking at different programs that we offer for you. Then we would love for you to become a transfer student here at KSU, become an OWL. Your application deadline is June 15th. And then you have until June 30th to submit all of your transcripts. As a transfer student, keep in mind we have to have a transcript from any and every college you've been to. So even if you took one course at another school during the summer as, say, a transient student, we need that transcript. So make sure that you get all those documents in. Don't wait until the last minute to submit your application or submit those documents. We want to go ahead and get you processed in for the fall so that you can become an OWL with us and graduate in a couple years. Other things I want to talk about is orientation. So maybe you have been accepted to KSU and you're like, what's next for me? What do I need to do? Sign up for housing, sign up for orientation, sign up to take a campus tour if you haven't done that. But for orientation, orientation looks a little different. We're still working through just life as we transition out of COVID and the pandemic. So keep in mind that we are still trying to make sure that we're doing social distancing and that we're taking care of you and your students. So orientation looks a little different. You will have your orientation that will be online. You'll register for your classes online, and then you will have another date, and that will be your new OWL welcome. And so we do have an online option for those students, but if you want to come to campus right before you start, we would love for you to be there, get to know our students, get to know some of the different organizations that are on our campus. So we would love for you to make sure you sign up for that. You don't want to wait until the last minute to sign up for orientation. So go ahead, if you've been accepted, maybe you've been accepted for a while and you hadn't signed up for orientation, please do that. You can sign up for orientation through your AliExpress account. And your AliExpress account is basically kind of your lifeline. That's where you'll see your financial aid. That's where you will see your grades. Everything is on your AliExpress account, which is your student portal here at KSU. So make sure that you sign up for orientation if you haven't already. Check your FAFSA if you haven't done that. Do all of that now so that the first day of class, you're not like, what do? I don't know where to go. You've been to campus, you've been to a new Al welcome, so you were ready, fresh, headed to classes, no big deal, it'll be great. If you haven't signed up for a campus tour, maybe you've never been to campus yet, even though you've gone to orientation, you may still want to do a campus tour, or maybe you have a brother or sister who is coming up behind you and they want to see KSU because they want to be a legacy and they want to kind of keep that tradition going. We encourage all of our students to do a campus tour. We offer campus tours on both our Kennesaw campus and our Marietta campus. If you don't know, KSU has 2 main campuses. So if you are interested in specific majors, it depends on which campus you'll be at. So we encourage you, sign up for a campus tour. We have them Monday through Friday. You can sign up at visit.kennesaw.edu. We would love to have you. We have student-led tours, so they're giving to show you their experience here at KSU, why they love being a KSU Owl, why they love being black and gold all the time. So we would love for you to come and visit. Another thing that we want to encourage students, if you are maybe a special student type like dual enrollment, we'll start those information sessions a little bit later in the year, but all of our I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm not used to the 7 o'clock. I'm used to the afternoon. Sorry, y'all. But if you have a special student type and you want to sign up for a special information session, we have those. Our transfer team, they're always working really hard with opportunities for next steps. If you need help with the application tutorial, all of that will be on our special visit website. So definitely sign up for that. So once again, if you haven't, sign up for a campus tour. We do them in person. We still do them virtually, and we have self-guided tours as well. So we cover the whole gamut, and we want you guys to feel safe, feel excited, but we would love to have you in person for a campus tour. We offer them at 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Because we want to make sure that you guys are also safe because it's getting hot here in Georgia. So we want you guys to have a great time when you're on the campus tour, but then still be cool because we have hot summers here in Georgia. So we would love that. And that is all of my news from the nest. That was real quick, easy, to the point. And now let's talk about undergraduate research. Awesome. So Dr. Buddy, like I said, you've been here with us before, but for those who do not know you or haven't watched a Ask Admissions or Facebook Live, as we used to call them, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to KSU and how you got to undergraduate research?
Yeah, so I started at KSU in 2003. I was fresh off of a postdoctoral fellowship at the Research Institute on Addictions, and I did research on my postdoc, but I wanted to get back into teaching, so I really like teaching and working with students. I didn't have a lot of that on my postdoc. So I came down here and I never looked back. It's been a long time. I can't believe it. But I started as an assistant professor in the psychology department, and immediately I was working with students on research, and I really liked it. And in 2008, a position opened up at our Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning called a Faculty Fellow for Undergraduate Research. And I didn't even really know what a Faculty Fellow is, but it's basically somebody who kind of works half-time in their department, but also half-time on this kind of leadership initiative. And at that point, it was a half-time position leading undergraduate research. Mm-hmm. And so I did that for a few years, and then it turned into a full-time position eventually. And it also migrated from the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning up to the Office of Research. So I feel like I've been all over the campus with this. But I've been doing this since 2008. So
that's
a long
awesome.
time. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about what is undergraduate research for KSU students specifically? What does that look like?
Yeah. I like to give the definition from the Council on Undergraduate Research, which is the large kind of national society for undergraduate research. Mm. And I give so many talks on this topic that I have it memorized. Yeah. An inquiry or investigation conducted by an undergraduate student that makes an original, intellectual, or creative contribution to the discipline.
Say that really fast again.
I have dreams about that definition. It just comes to me. Yeah. What I like about the definition, I know I gave that really fast, but the the back of that is that it's really about a student making a contribution in their discipline. So, and it works for whatever discipline you're in. So like I've worked, with students in dance who are doing choreographies that are making a unique contribution to that discipline. In my discipline of psychology, it might be students doing a survey or doing a lab experiment or something like that. In biology, it might be working at a lab or working in the field, taking samples from a lake. So every discipline does it a little bit differently, but however that discipline defines undergraduate research, students at KSU are making that kind of contribution. We have students in every single major doing what I just described.
Yeah. And so for those who don't know, KSU, we are an R2 institution. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that means for a student? Because I think people see that, maybe they read that on our website and they're like, okay, that's cool, R2, I don't know what that means. Is that like a robot 2 or like, what does that mean?
That would be
a little
cool.
shout out to our robot down here.
Yeah, so it's a classification that KSU achieved, and I'm blanking on the year, but it was fairly recently, 3 years maybe, that we've been in R2, if that. And so it goes from R1, which is sort of a research-intensive kind of institution, and then the next level down is R2, and that's what KSU is. And so you can think of like University of Georgia, Georgia Tech are like R1, and so we're R2. And it just means that we have pretty intensive research, maybe not at the level of a University of Georgia, but we're doing a lot of research. And our goal is to become the best R2 in the country, and I think we're on our way. And I think it's largely because of the quality of our undergraduate researchers, because we don't have that many graduate programs. We have many and they're excellent, but we have a huge undergraduate population, and they are clamoring for these experiences, and the faculty are providing them. And so increasingly students who come to KSU get this really amazing undergraduate research experience that they actually, kind of ironically, I think, might not get at these R1 institutions that are more focused on the graduate programs. At KSU, our undergraduate researchers really get a lot of attention. Yeah. And a lot of our resources, too, are really focused on the undergraduate population. So we have a lot of programming in my office, specifically to fund the students, to give them opportunities to present, both locally here at KSU, but also regionally, nationally, and sometimes internationally, get their work published. A lot of that kind of attention comes from a KSU atmosphere that is not there at some of the other kinds of institutions.
And I was looking on our website and just saw that some of our students, or one of our students, was selected for a really prestigious summer program for undergraduate research. So yes, I saw that and I was like, so could you tell us what makes our students stand out to be selected for those opportunities? Like, how did they get there, and how did they pursue that for themselves?
I have to brag on Angie, because I know her really well. Go to the Office of Undergraduate Research website. It's one of the scrolling stories across the top. She actually started in Undergraduate Research Club, which we started about, I can't remember now, I think it's been about 8 or 9 years, maybe 9 years. It's a registered student organization, and so anybody out there who comes to KSU and you're not sure where to start, that's a good place to start, because the club does research in teams. And so if you're thinking this sounds overwhelming, I don't know how to get started, the club is a nice kind of entryway. And Angie started doing research in Undergraduate Research Club really early on in her college career. Then she became an officer in the club, and then she started doing research in her major. And now look at her. Yeah. She's going this amazing summer research program. And a lot of students have that kind of trajectory where they start kind of with something like Undergraduate Research Club early on, because that's a nice kind of entry point, and then you parlay that into different experiences as you get a little bit older.
That's really cool. Yeah. Do you know what she'll be studying, or to have an idea of what that will look like for her?
I actually don't remember what her actual project is.
Yeah. Okay.
Just I remember seeing that it was an Ivy League and it was summer, and that is amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't think past that.
Yeah.
Angie, look at what you've done.
That's really cool. That's really awesome to be able to have that as, for a student to put that on a resume, or just to be able to just experience it in general, I think it's just really cool for students. Can you talk a little bit about some other opportunities that students have been able to go through? I know we'll have students on just a little bit, and they're going to talk a little bit more about that, but can you tell me a little bit more about the student research process, or how students can get into that research opportunity?
Yeah, so a lot of students who've gotten these kind of really prestigious awards and fellowships and summer research programs, they started early. And so, you know, thinking through, if you're going to come to KSU, don't wait. I think that a lot of students think, oh, I'll just do research when I'm a senior, but that is going to be a little bit too late for some of these kinds of opportunities that come later. So we want you to get started right away. And I've already mentioned Undergraduate Research Club. Another way to get involved is just by approaching faculty. Our faculty are really nice at KSU, I think. They're really energetic, they're really willing to work with students, and especially if you show up. And I think a face-to-face conversation is better than just like sending emails. Like, I think you really want to kind of sit down with your teachers and just talk to them about their research and see if you can help out with projects that they're already doing. And what's good about that is that you don't have to come in as a first-year student with your own like idea of what to do. You really can work with a faculty member on his or her research, and then that can morph into kind of maybe your own research down the road. But you're just kind of getting your feet wet in the freshman year. And a lot of our students that have been really successful have started right when they get here.
That's awesome. I was just curious, can students do research in almost any discipline? I know you talked about that, but like, what does that look like for students being able to kind of choose? You know, my major I was a business major, and I know there was probably research opportunities that I could go into, but say you are a dance major, how that looks for a student, and how that looks different from a student who is a biology major, who is traditionally doing what we consider as research, and as a student that's maybe in a discipline that may not be very much like a science research discipline. How does that look?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of KSU, is because we have a lot of diverse research going on. My recommendation, if you're out there thinking about this, is to go to the Office of Undergraduate Research's First Year Scholars Program page. And we're going to have a couple of students who are just graduated from the First Year Scholars Program coming on in a second to tell you more. But you can see the old projects there, old meaning this past year. And if you go to that page, you'll see every college is represented. That means that we had first year scholars in every single college at KSU, from engineering, computer science, College of the Arts, humanities and social sciences. Whatever your major is, there was probably an opportunity for you in the first year scholars program. And basically, just really briefly, this is a program that pairs incoming first year students with faculty to do research for a year. And maybe more. Some of these projects are continuing on into their sophomore years. But yeah, it's really cool to see the diversity of projects from, we're going to hear about a film project from the First Year Scholars Program, engineering. It looks different, right? Every discipline does research a little bit differently. So this robot is from engineering, not from the film project. Although maybe he could be in both. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
The robots take over the world.
We'll make that work.
Yeah,
we can talk about that.
Synergy, right?
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Could work. So the research looks really different. You might be, if you're in the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, math, you might be in a lab working with a big team of people. If you're in English or history, it's more traditional to just be kind of working one-on-one with a faculty member. Not always, but that's often how it goes. So, it just kind of depends on your major, but there are opportunities out there no matter what your major is.
Awesome. I do have a question about workshops and training for our faculty and then also our students. What does that look like for KSU students and faculty?
Yeah, so we don't have student workshops in the summer because there's not as many students around, but we do have a workshop series for the faculty right now. So there are 4 over the summer about mentoring undergraduate researchers, about working with large teams of students, working in interdisciplinary groups, because that's another big push at KSU is thinking interdisciplinary
Yes.
I
was with you.
I mean, it was on the edge there. But all that means is that, you know, if you think about the big problems in society, they're not going to be solved by one discipline. It's going to be people who think in different ways coming together to solve this problem. And that's the kind of research that we want to promote at KSU. And so thinking, how do you work in interdisciplinary research teams? And then also getting funding for your research. So we have several workshops this summer. When we do student workshops, it's things like, how do you write a research question? How do you write an abstract so that you can apply to go to conferences or write papers? How do you make a poster or do an oral presentation at a conference? So we have a different kind of topics for the workshops for students. We also have a lot of resources just already online in case you can't make those workshops. So last summer, I made this like video series. You're going to have to, unfortunately, listen to me. I'm the star of all of these videos.
I love it.
You get sick of me. But I was concerned, especially because it was the pandemic, that we couldn't like have all of these kind of face-to-face workshops. And so we just kind of put it all in these kind of short, I tried to keep them like 11 to 12 minutes or so. I failed in a few cases where I feel passionate, like doing oral presentations, I think is a real important skill.
It is.
That video is like 40 minutes. Sorry. But I did try to keep them bite-sized, you know, so there might be one on like, you know, how do you develop a research question, hypotheses and theories, how to write a paper, how to find credible sources. So there's this whole series on the website where you can watch these at your leisure. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's good for the students, because although we had to kind of figure out how do we still engage and interact with students through last year, I think that it just is really helpful as we move into the future where we are back-to-back and face-to-face. Students can still go back and rewatch those and use that as like a springboard so they can have those questions and bring that to the faculty or bring that to you or whomever they want to, so they can say, okay, I heard about this from Dr. Buddy in her videos. I want to know more, or how do I do that better? And then that way you guys can have those individual conversations. So I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. And anybody who wants to learn more, the email is simple, OUR, which stands for Office of Undergraduate Research at kennesaw.edu. Just send us a quick email and we'll get back to you. We can have meetings, we can talk on Teams or on Zoom, you know, anything is game.
And you all, you have your workshops, but throughout the year, other events that you all do, or like conferences or symposiums that you all participate in, can you tell the students about that as well?
Yeah. And you know, that's a good way, if you don't end up doing research right away, you could at least get a sense of the research that's going on at KSU by going to our Symposium of Student Scholars, which is our big kind of celebration of student research, both undergraduate and graduate. And we hold it every December and April, or you know, end of fall, end of spring semester. And it's free, it's open to the public. You can just go and kind of talk to people, talk to students who are doing research in your major or on a topic that you're interested in. It doesn't have to be in your major. You can do research outside of your major and just kind of get a sense of what's going on around campus. But if you are doing research, I highly, highly recommend presenting at it. It gives you practice doing presentations. You can do an oral presentation, a performance, visual arts display, poster, and there are prizes, so you might win a few $100s.
Who doesn't love a good prize?
Somebody over here won a prize in April, just saying.
So we'll talk about that.
We should talk about
that.
And a lot of that is practice for the conferences that students go to, either undergraduate research conferences or conferences in their major or in their discipline. One conference that we really support at KSU is the National Conference on Undergraduate Research, because that one we hosted in 2019. It was amazing. It was so much fun. It was so much work, but the entire campus, I'd never seen our campus just galvanized behind an event like that, because thousands of people had to volunteer, KSU students, faculty, staff. We had 5,000 people from all around the world come to our campus for this event. It was a 3-day kind of blowout on our campus. Everything shut down. It was amazing. Like, there were no classes. Everything was geared toward this conference. And so wherever NCUR is, we go to it. This past year it was virtual. The next year, they haven't announced yet exactly what's going. I think they're kind of waiting to see, you know, is it going to be safe or not? But you know, we support when KSU students are accepted, we support them financially, either paying the conference registration or travel or whatever it takes.
How do students get that opportunity? Is there something that they have to sign up for, or is it just like, hey, I just want to go, or do they have to be selected? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. So for NCUR in particular, students have to submit an abstract in December, early December, and if they get accepted, then we pay the travel expenses. You can't go rogue. Like, you have to talk to me first and stuff. Like, we have to organize everything. So for example, in 2016, it was in Asheville, and so we just took like 2 or 3 busloads of students over to Asheville. Nice. We basically rented out a big hotel. It was the KSU hotel, and you know, all these KSU students are presenting at NCUR. Sometimes it's a flight. Last year it was supposed to be at Montana State. We were all excited. It was
so pretty.
Bozeman, Montana. If you've never been, is beautiful. But it got, you know, canceled obviously for COVID. So that was 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Time has lost all meaning.
Yes,
and then this past April, it was a virtual event. So so we had actually, I asked them to tell me, you know, how many students did KSU have relative to other schools that went to NCUR this past year, and they said that KSU had the most registrants at NCUR 2021.
Representing, always.
Representing, right?
Always, I love it. That's wonderful.
In 2020, we had the most outside of Montana State, right? In 2019, we had the most because we hosted.
We were here.
In 2018, we had the most except for the host institution that year. I could go on and on.
Yes, so our students are best.
The point is our students rock.
I love it. Are there clubs or extracurricular activities dedicated to undergraduate research? I think you've hit on it a few, but if we can kind of explain that a little bit more, let students know. Yeah,
so Undergraduate Research Club is the most obvious because it's solely devoted to undergraduate research, and it's available for any major. And the projects are really dictated, the projects that the students in Undergraduate Research Club do are really dictated by the interests of the students in the club. So I mentored a couple of projects this past year that both of them were on like COVID and mental health and coping in college students. I know there was another project, you know, a bunch of architecture students got together and looked at kind of the effects of COVID on those kinds of architecture classes that are normally real, like hands-on. You know, how do you adjust in the time of COVID? So like students in the club decide what they want to study, and then we look for faculty mentors to sponsor those projects. And we had a lot. We had, I think, 12 or something teams this past year, and they presented at Symposium of Student Scholars. Most of them were accepted to go to NCUR this past year, so it's a real good opportunity. That's the most obvious club, but a lot of majors have different clubs that are focused on research too, and there's too many of them to name here. But whatever your major is, kind of look up and see if there's registered student organizations. Like in my in my field of psychology, we have like Psy-Chi and Psych Club, and so those are really good to join as well.
Awesome. Well, those are my questions for you. What I think we should do is bring in our students, because I've got this robot that keeps looking at me, and so I feel like we need to have a conversation with him too. So that
we've been ignoring him.
We've been ignoring him. I haven't been looking down, but it has been looking at me. So I always love to have you with us, Dr. Betty.
Thank you so much.
She's not going anywhere. She will still be here. She will be the voice of God in the corner.
Yes.
But we're going to bring up our students, and they're going to tell us a little bit more just about their experience here at KSU and why undergraduate research for them. So we'll have them come on up and talk a little bit more.
What's the next robot?
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Great.
How are you? Awesome. I'm good. Well, I won't introduce myself again. I mean, it's wonderful. And you want to know something? I didn't even say who I was. I just kind of started. So if you don't know me, I'm Jacinta. I'm the manager of admissions for special populations. And I've got 2 awesome students here who will introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves here at KSU. So we'll let you get started.
Thanks so much, Ms. Lester, for having Gabrielle and I here.
Of
This
course.
is so awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Charles Skiduru. I'm a rising sophomore at Kennesaw State University, and my major is in mechatronics engineering. or robotics.
Okay, my name's Gabrielle Jones. I'm a sophomore as well, and my major is media and entertainment here at KSU.
Awesome. I've got two pros right here. They're ready. They're like, let's go. Let's start. And I love it. It's wonderful. All right. So if you guys can tell us a little bit about how you got to KSU, why you chose KSU, and then we'll also let Now introduce himself as well. Yes.
Yeah, so as soon as I graduated from high school, I went to Alfred High School. I looked at many colleges all over the country, and I really liked KSU, mostly because of the balance of like mental health, athletics, and food is really food, and also
That's number
and
one.
academics especially. I felt like, as soon as I came here, it was always like, hey, if you're stressing too much, we have a center, people you can talk to, or if you need help in writing a couple essays or anything like that, we have a writing center. And if you want to kind of stretch out your arms and legs, we have a rock climbing center. So I did a lot of that during my first semester here. A lot of COVID inside. I just wanted to go outside, and so Kennesaw had everything, for me to do that. So that's why I really liked to come here.
Awesome. What about
Okay, so more of what drew me here is for my major. I'm a media and entertainment major, which I say the fancy way of saying a film major. And so one thing that KSU does, they partner with the Georgia Film Program. So basically, like my junior and senior year, I can go on like sets and get some hands-on experience. Then KSU also has this thing called the MEBIS program, which is basically like a business and entertainment program. So that's really what I came here for, because it just has so much in my major, and it has such a great campus culture, because you're right here in Kennesaw and there's so much to do. I didn't realize how much KSU was connected with until I actually came here, so I'm super excited to be here.
We're just like little, I always say best kept secret. We've got little gems hidden, and then they'll just pop up and you're like, oh, I didn't know we could do that. That's awesome. So that's wonderful. So obviously we're talking about undergraduate research. You guys are a part of that. So can you explain kind of what undergraduate research that you guys are doing right now here as a student, and we'll let Now start, and then we'll let you have a little go at it.
Yeah, sure. So I started with the First Year Scholars Program during my first semester at KSU. So I worked with my mechatronics professor, Hassan Tanvir, and together we kind of developed path planning algorithms. So we wrote a paper on path planning algorithms, and it was basically about how we can communicate between mobile robots using vision and path planning algorithms. And that paper got accepted at a conference in Dublin, China. It was the 6th International Automation Control Robotics Intelligence Conference. So that was super exciting.
So cool.
For me to kind of get accepted to that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So basically, essentially what it was is I imagine like there's a wheeled robot, and we have a small environment. There are a bunch of obstacles there, and there are two robots, this buddy Now and another wheeled robot. And in the environment there's like a bunch of other obstacles. So the end goal is for that wheeled robot to pass all those obstacles and get to the other side of the field. So to do that, there are many ways to do that. You can use ultrasonic sensors, which will like basically sense if there's an object there and turn left to right, or LiDAR sensors. And so Dr. Tanvir and I, we wanted to propose a new method of navigation. So we wanted to introduce Now, which he has like a camera that can see the entire field. So what we wanted to do was take his vision controls, take a picture of the environment, analyze the data, see where all the obstacles are, and based on that processed data, we'll send that information to the wheeled robot. And we'll basically tell the wheeled robot, there's an obstacle here, 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 and here. This is the shortest path to get to the other side. So essentially that's what we did, and we wrote a paper about that, and that got accepted. So yeah, that was really cool.
That's really cool. And I love the passion. Like, I think that's really exciting. I think the best thing about what you guys are doing, and then of course Gabrielle, that you're telling us about what you do, like just how excited you are about the research that you're going to get to do, or that you continue to participate in as a student here. So I think that's really awesome. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
Okay,
research-wise?
so what I did, I guess my freshman year, was a project called Women Genre Writers in Film and Television. So what we're doing isn't exactly new research, but it's research no one's talking about. So we're finding those screenwriters all the way back from like the 1920s and drawing them out. Because a big conversation is being had in the media industry is that no one's talking about these diverse projects, maybe about sexuality, just different women's health issues, that no one's talking about them. But essentially what's actually happening is no one's talking about what people have already done. So this whole year was essentially going through probably every project that's been made, and like you have to go to IMDb, find the movie, and literally just find someone and find out if they're female. That's what you have to do. And so my research paper that I wrote is more connecting women and what they've written and why it's so vital to today. But really the entire project my freshman year is just finding these people, because the weird thing is it's so hard. You'd think you'd be able to like Google it and they would pop up. There would be a list. There is not. And so that was so crazy to me, but I love doing it because film's my passion.
So how'd you find those people? Like, what was like the one skill that you're like, this is how I'm going to find this person?
What you have to do is we broke them up. So we started by films that won awards, like an Academy, like an Oscar, if maybe you won an Emmy. We literally broke them down and started whenever they began. You went to IMDb, you put in the film, and you looked at who wrote it. And if you couldn't figure it out, you put into Google, you had to find out if they were a man or a woman. And we went through every award, then we started going through genre of the films, and we started going through just the types of films there were, and that's how you get to every single film, because there's no other way. Even if you go to IMDb, you can't look up female screenwriters. You can only find the ones who wrote the film. So it was tedious work. I think my laptop and I were connected for forever, but it was so fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And once again, I think it gives students an opportunity that you probably never thought. Like, you think you can just be like, oh, I'll just Google that and it's just going to pop up all these answers for me because that's what we do. But it does take time to like really think through and have those skills to be like, well, I can't find this, so this is how I have to go here. And so I think that also brings into that component of like research and doing all that. So I think that's really cool. Can you guys tell me a little bit about First Year Scholars and how you guys got there, just your journey through that process?
Yeah, definitely. So it was my 1000 Introduction to Mechatronics course. And so my lab professor was my current research professor, Dr. Tanvir. And so one day he was like, hey, Charles, come here real quick. I have this cool research thing you want to do. It's for the First Year Scholars program. I think you should check it out. So after class, I went back to my dorm and I was scrolling through the research, Kennesaw research website, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Let me apply. And as I was scrolling, I was trying to look more things oriented my field of interest, which was mechatronics robotics. And surprisingly, Dr. Tanvir was doing something cool with robotics. So I signed up, and after a couple of weeks, I kind of got accepted and was able to work with him. And it was such a fun experience, because when you first come to college, you think like these professors, they're not going to work with undergraduate students like me. They're going to work with graduate students. But that was not the case at all, especially at KSU. All the professors and the student relationship was like super cool and chillax, and that was like really that made me as a student feel like more comfortable, and I can ask better questions and gain a better understanding of what I'm trying to learn. And so with working with Dr. Tanvir, we took it step by step, learning the basics of just normal interacting with the robot. And then we kind of took it to another step with navigating through other robots, and eventually we started again to that path planning project, and we wrote a research paper about it.
Awesome.
Okay, so my experience is a little bit different because I was mostly virtual the entire year, so I barely stepped foot on campus. But mine started because I'm in another program at KSU called Thrive, and through that, they had a presentation with Dr. Buddy, and she was explaining undergraduate research, and I went to the presentation. It was on Zoom, and I was like, okay, this is cool, and they were talking about it, and then I saw Dr. Buddy scroll past them that said women genre writers. I remember I stopped the presentation, and I was like, that's the project I want to do, and she's like, don't tell anyone, you don't want them to steal your project. And I was like, as soon as it was over, I went and applied, and I saw all these other ones, because mine's in the I'm a humanities social sciences major, but my project falls under the Department of English. And so I remember I went on there and I was like, I'm going to apply. And it was the only one I wanted. There were so many cool projects on there, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, this research is for me. Because when I went into the presentation, I mean, I don't define research for me before this as something like a film major could do. But then when I saw that, I was like, this is so cool. And I literally remember I got the notification that I was accepted. Like, I was driving into work, and I started screaming. I was so excited.
I hope you pulled over. It was like, and celebrated, and then went back.
I remember because I parked my car at work, and I opened my email, and I was like, this is so cool. And I worked with my professor. Her name's Dr. Anna Weinstein, and we just had this great relationship. We only met in person twice just because of COVID, but she was so much fun. I had such a great time working on this project. It was long nights, but it was like enjoyable long nights. I'm going to look back and be so excited I got to do that.
That's awesome. I love it. Can you guys tell me why students should choose to do undergraduate research at KSU?
Definitely. I think that's a really important question to ask yourself. Like, why should an undergraduate research student get into research now? For me, from my experience, is when I first got into research, I thought it would be something I really couldn't understand or comprehend, but that really wasn't the case. When I got into research, I was able to understand what my field of interest, robotics, like what it is now, like modern industries, companies, actually what they need and what problems are they solving. So with research, we were able to kind of look at those companies and apply it at our own university and our own lab. And if you start now, if you start as early as possible, you'll be able to get a more broader view of what you're trying to do, like what your field of study is. And as earlier you start, that's just gonna be better for you. You know, your experience, the information about the field of study would increase, and eventually you would be able to create projects of your own that would really make a bigger impact, and that's what it's all about. Yeah.
I think it's important because it's a new experience. Like, as I touched on before, I'd never really done research before this time. So getting to start it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, how is this going to work? But the good thing about being part of the first year scholars program is I wasn't just accepted and they're like, okay, go do research. It was as if like they held my hand like every step of the way. Not like you need that to be done, but I had never done a research project. I had never done a really long research paper. I had never done any of this before. So I really think undergraduate research is a good way to get your foot in the door, especially your first year, because you never know like what from the first year, like what's going to bring you. Like I started doing like my media entertainment project, and now I'm doing some research. Charles and I are doing research with Emory now. So it's like you don't know where this like application, where this undergraduate research is going to take you until you try it. So
can you guys tell us a little bit more about what you guys are working on together at Emory?
Yeah, so after our experience with the first year scholars program, we were able to collab with Emory University and their project called the MapMe project, which is a study about drug abuse with young rising adults. And so right now, me and Gabrielle, we're on the social media aspect, kind of expanding the MapMe, kind of getting more students and recruiting them into the project.
Yeah, basically like social media outreach, just really working on those focus groups. They've been really great about like integrating us like into their world, because Emory is starting to partner with KSU, and that's how we really got involved with their research. But they've been really great about like showing us the steps to get into it, because you know, as I did like my Screen Artist project, we're now doing stuff that's like hands-on. We need to get city trained, we need to do all this other stuff. So it's a different type of research for me, but it's really cool to see this other side. Especially we're working with Emory students, with Emory professors over there, and so they're really teaching us a lot about research that I didn't know before.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's very interesting because you're working with humans. So you, like what Gabrielle said, you have to go with more like city training and more general like requirements, and it's so cool, you know.
So speaking of humans, we have a robot. I keep coming back to it.
Yeah, I
we
think
have a robot.
maybe.
So can you tell us a little bit about your robot? Introduce him. Let him introduce himself. I'm not sure, however you want to do it, but can you kind of tell us about how you got to this place? I know you talked about it with your research, but a little bit more about now.
Yeah, definitely. Now is a autonomous programmable human robot. So he's actually the first robot I kind of put my hands on and kind of messed around with and just try to see what I can do with him. And now has like a bunch of sensors. So like if someone's talking over here, he can like sense like, okay, this is where they're talking. He can also do like, let's see, I don't know, but like you can like move him and then he can he can just copy all those movements and stuff like that. He's a little bit tired right now. I think he disconnected with me.
He's like,
So-
I've been looking back and forth for an hour. It's a lot.
Exactly. I'll try my best to talk him back to working again. But yeah, he'll come back. I know he will. Yeah.
He's never down, guys. So you guys are part of undergraduate research, but what other things are you all involved in? Just as a student, because you guys are sophomores, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So you've gotten out of your first year of college. You've made it. You're almost there. Woo. So kind of what other things are you all involved with here at KSU?
Okay, well, here at KSU, as I mentioned before, I'm part of the Thrive program. So they're just basically like, in short words, they just really help you keep hope and keep you connected to other students who are like-minded like you. So that was really great, especially like online. Like I didn't know anyone, so that was really great to be connected with people who were just like me. And plus, they really want to help me keep hope, so that makes me happy.
Yes, that's very important. Please keep hope. We want that. Yeah.
I also played club soccer with KSU. They didn't have any games, but it was fun to go out there and like actually meet some people. I think that was like one of the only times during my first semester that I actually met with people. And then I'm part of another group on campus called Crew at KSU. There's a Christian ministry organization, so that was super fun. Outside of KSU, I work and I just like to hang out, have fun. So
For real, it's just a great time. It's fun.
That's all it
I love
is.
it. I love it. What about you, Charles?
For me, I'm part of the. I just recently joined the KSU Motorsports. So
Cool.
they're a competition team. Back in high school, I used to do competition robotics. That's where my interest for robotics all started. So I wanted to get back into the competition realm again and just see what I can do over there. I'm also part of the undergraduate research club, and over there I'm trying to. Right now, we're collaborating with a couple undergraduate researchers who are I think juniors right now, and I think last year Elon Musk kind of said, "Hey, there's a carbon dioxide problem. What are some solutions what you can do to kind of solve it?" So we've been talking with some guys over at Georgia Southern University and Kennesaw campus, some mechanical engineers here too. And right now we're coming up with like a design, two designs. One design is more like a land-based big fan that kind of circulates the air and then pushes it into energy. And then another one is like using the wind currents in like the oceans, basically putting big turbines and try to use those energy to get the air like that and put it into energy. We're still working it out, but
We're
it's
trademarking this for him too.
Yeah.
So what you just heard, just don't listen. We're trademarking this for Charles and his friends.
But yeah, it's fun working with other people with the different skills and skill sets. It's really interesting how they think and then listening to their ideas and how we kind of collab together. It's so cool.
That's awesome. As we kind of wind down, I always like to ask our student assistants really just what's one piece of advice that you would want to give a incoming freshman? So they're starting in fall 2021. They're going to be freshmen just like you guys were. What's one piece of advice that you would want to give them?
I guess personally for me, it's just step out of your comfort zone. Research is something for me that was definitely that stretch. It was outside my comfort zones and I never thought I could do. You're out of high school, you're out of wherever you came from. You can do new things. And so I think try it. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but just not for research, just in general. Try something new, see if you like it, just have some fun. That's how I kind of did my first year, and that's how I found out undergraduate research stuck for me, and just some other things didn't stick. So.
Definitely. That's good advice, Gabrielle. I wish I had that advice when I came. No, but for my advice, definitely get register for your classes as early as possible.
Ooh.
Get those dorms because they run out pretty fast, and and also this will be more for, I guess, for the STEM people over there. if you have, usually for your first semester at KSU, you're going to take those 1,000 intro to mechanical, electrical engineering, or in my case, mechatronics. Those 1,000 courses, the professors who teach those courses are going to be like your first primary, really important connection to your field of interest. So it's really important to have a strong connection with them, like, you know, give them a gift or something. I mean, well, why not? But you know, it's. I mean, yeah. You really want to give a good connection with them. Like, just ask them, like, hey, professor, I'm really interested. If you are interested in research, you can just directly ask him, like, face to face, if that's possible. Hey, professor, I'm really interested in research. Do you have any opportunities that I can do? And so for me, personally, what I kind of started off with was just like a literature review, just reading my professor's papers and just kind of giving like, hey, I think I wasn't able to understand this. Maybe we can reword this a little bit differently. But that would be my little bit of advice.
I like it. That's good advice. I really appreciate that. Guys, thank you so much for coming on, just giving your experience here at KSU. I think you guys are going to go far. I'm really excited to see kind of what this next year and then the year after that. And then as we get closer to senior year, I know I'm putting a lot of pressure on y'all.
I know.
I'm sorry. It's going to come fast. And you guys are
I
like,
know.
But I think that you guys are really on a great path, and I'm really excited to see kind of where that goes for y'all. So we are so thankful that you guys were here, spent some time with us and Ask Admissions. We always close out with the big Hooty Hoo. So let's throw up our allies and Hooty Hoo, everybody.
Hooty Hoo. Oh.